Hey, welcome back to GABL. As always, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Don.
We are back again with another episode, as we always do every week.
Yes, happy to be coming in. We're happy to have our research assistant with us today, Reagan. Thank you for filling in and helping us out.
Yeah, and then we also, for the first time on this series, we're taking a caller, Don.
Yes, we are. It's going to be great to have a guest, and we're thrilled to have a guest on GABL for the first time ever. And so we are welcoming a professional photographer. And would you like to introduce yourself, professional photographer?
Sure. I am Jen, and I own Jen Peterson Photography, based in Northern California.
All right.
All right. Well, it's good to have you.
Now, my understanding is that you are at least connected with a photographer for the royal family. Is that correct?
Yeah, I follow one on Instagram, and it's really fun to see a lot of his images of the royal family. So
very interesting.
Yeah, so we've had some requests in, and people want us to talk about the royal family, or royal traditions.
Just royal traditions, royal weddings. Yeah,
so this is it. And so we're bringing Jen in so we can talk to her about it and can pick her brain about what she knows and find out some fascinating facts about the royals.
Yeah, the royals, royal weddings,
royalty
all kinds
in general,
of things.
rather.
Yes.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jen, why don't you kick it off with a little bit of what you've learned from your research, and let's just start there, and we'll kind of work our way through this.
all right, sounds good. Number one is looking into a bunch of the royalties. Of course, the British royalty is the number one most popular royals of all time.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive into the Spanish royals first, and then we'll get into the British.
Kind of move back to the British. That makes good sense.
Exactly.
Well,
there's not a whole lot to find on the other ones.
Got it. So yeah, talk to us a little bit about the Spanish royals and what you know and what you found out about them.
Sounds good. So what I did find out is when a baby prince is born in the court of Spain, the prime minister has to be present or he is hastily sent for. Also the presidents of the Congress and the Senate and the commander of the royal, oh Lord, I can't pronounce that name, halberdiers. I probably totally butchered that.
Oh, that's all right. We butcher lots of words, so it's all good.
I butcher words all the time, so don't mind me. Let's see, to whom is entrusted the guarding of the royal family within the palace. So
basically,
the prime minister actually has to be there when that.
Okay, and the commander is basically the royal guard. Is that what I'm picking up for the royal family? Got it. Okay.
Yes.
So this baby is born. You have the prime minister. You have the presidents of the Congress, the Senate, and you have all these people there. And then what happens?
And then the chief doctor will dress the baby. They'll place the poor little Adam upon an enormous silver saver, which bears him in state to the father, who is waiting in the antechamber. So the father actually is not present in the room when the baby is born.
Is he allowed to be?
Mm-mm.
No.
Wow, man.
No.
That would be rough. Okay.
Yeah. So definitely different than U.S. traditions.
Most certainly.
Yeah, and there's even special words that they have to say too when the doctor comes out to the king.
What are these words?
Yeah, it says, "Sir,
Sounds like
it
a
is
seance.
an infidante, meaning prince."
Oh, so basically, okay, we have a prince. All right.
Sounds like
Yes.
infidel. Sir, it's unfaithful.
And it's a very
What?
serious ordeal either. Like, he says it gravely.
Really? It's an
And then
infidante.
the king, with equal gravity, takes the salver, raises it, and shows it to all who are present. He kisses the baby, and then that's it. The little ceremony is over.
Oh, wow. So, and that happens for every prince that is born, even if they're not in, I mean, I guess they would be in line for the kingship, but if they're not directed.
It's not the king,
Or direct
if it's the
to-
king's
Do
son, that
all
is-
royal successions work the same for the first birth of the male child? You know how the British royals worked? Is that how these operate as well?
I didn't find anything to solidify that, but I would assume that yes.
Wow, that's very interesting. So, it's my understanding as well that in Spanish royalty, there's nobody allowed to touch the king or something. What?
Correct.
Okay. What is there something, just a tidbit out of that you could give us that basically no king?
I guess if you are beneath the rank of a noble, you cannot touch the King of Spain.
So you cannot shake his hand or
You can't
anything.
shake his hand. You can't like tap him on the arm. Nothing.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting. So that is amazing to me. The difference between that king, the Spanish royalty, and like the royalty of the Netherlands, because the Dutch royalty is exactly the opposite. They're
Really?
instead of being very formal and very like don't touch us, they're the exact opposite. They are more of interacting with the people. They don't want to be called by royal nicknames. They don't wear crowns. There's a lot of different things with the Dutch royalty that is just totally different than the Spanish royalty. So that's interesting. In fact, one of the craziest stories that I found in my research is that on the monarch's birthday, which they call Queen's Day, it is actually, or King's Day, either one, but it marks the birthday of Juliana, the queen of the Dutch royalty. They actually have a nationwide flea market on the day that they mark her birthday. So it's the one day where you can sell anything from anywhere on that one day, and they basically just, the whole country has a giant flea market just in celebrating her birthday. It's just so weird how that's
What a weird way to celebrate.
Exactly.
I
It's
know,
like
that is
we're
odd.
going to celebrate royalty. Let's have a flea market. Just
Let's
doesn't
have a
make
yard
So-
sale. That's
Exactly.
what it sounds like to me.
Maybe,
Exactly.
Nationwide
maybe it's
yard
not
sale.
taxed or something. I don't get it.
that would probably be it. Yep, that's probably it.
Hey, it's a tax-free day. You're welcome. It's my birthday. I'm feeling generous,
I'm feeling
people.
generous.
All you,
Generous.
all you peasants don't have to pay tax one day.
So, Jen, also, I know you've done some research on like French royals. Is there anything special about the French royalty that you'd like to kind of bring to the table today?
Yeah, the one thing that did stand out to me, of course, there's a lot of talk about Marie Antoinette, and she had a few quirks about her, which was I found interesting. But in part, I kind of don't blame her, because with the French royalty, anytime the royal family would take their place at the dinner table to eat their dinner, everyone else had to stand around the room and watch them eat.
What?
Seriously? Okay.
Seriously, nobody else in the room could eat, and depending on their rank, the rank of the other people there, whether they're duchesses or princesses, like they all had a certain placement that they had to stand. And
Did they eat prior, or did they have to wait for them to finish and then?
they had to wait for them to finish. Like nobody could eat; they just all stand there and watch them eat.
Is there, in your research, is there any reasoning for that other than they're king and
Not
queen and
that
get to
I
do their
could
thing?
find.
Well, that's
Not
what
that I
happens when you
found,
have
no.
one person in charge.
It was just a
Don.
ritual that they did. They ate their
guess.
dinner in public view.
Okay. Now,
Yeah. So Marie hated that. So she would always pick at her food and hardly eat anything. And then later, after that whole public display was over, she would actually eat a separate meal in her private chambers.
yeah, could you imagine just sitting
So
there and
she's-
everybody, like 100 people just staring at you while you and your husband ate?
That's
Yeah,
just
I don't
odd
think
that
I
she's.
could do it.
Why wouldn't she just abolish that tradition and then have everybody eat at one time, so she wouldn't have to pick at her food and then eat later?
Yeah, unless, I mean,
Well, Marie was only a queen, so the king was over her. So I think it would
so
have
she
had
was
to
a
have been a
yeah.
joint.
So according to my research, that is considered a royal consort. So they have no
Yeah.
real power. They're not actually queen. If the king dies, the crown doesn't go to his wife. It goes to his firstborn
Correct.
son.
exactly. Yeah. That's,
Yes.
it's just amazing to me that they would,
That makes more sense.
that they would sit there though and say, "Oh, we're going to eat in front of everybody else. And nobody else is going to eat, and you're going to stare at us all day." No, thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's wacko.
And you
Yeah.
know that these people are probably hungry. They're waiting for you to finish eating. So
They've got to be starving.
I know.
it can't be a pleasant meal. If
So
you're
hopefully
the
they
king
were
and
fast
queen,
eaters.
wouldn't you want to enjoy your meal without people staring at you?
I would.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
They're gonna-
All right, what do we got next? I think I've wore this one out.
So here was another interesting one that I found on the French royals. The attendants for the king were not allowed to knock on his door.
Well, how
So
would they get in
if
contact with
they-
him?
Here's what they would do.
Let me guess. They would
use
take a mirror
the-
and reflect the moonlight into the room, and they would flash in Morse code. King, we're under attack. Don't want to knock on your door to disturb
need
you.
to talk
Trying to
to
keep this
you."
message short, King. Please come out.
No, not
Nope.
quite.
Okay.
You
Smoke
probably would
signals.
never guess this. Okay, no. They would take
So-
their left little finger, so their pinky finger,
Mm-hmm.
and they would scratch on the door
Ooh.
with their left little finger.
So it had
get
to
his
be
attention.
It had to be the left little
permitted
finger.
into his
I wonder
room.
if the king
Yes.
ever came out and said, "That was your index finger. I could tell."
Yeah. What if he got older and started going deaf?
You know, I don't know.
That
I
would
guess
be.
they would have to scratch a little louder.
I guess.
Which would probably produce splinters.
He would just
underneath
never
the
be aware he
fingernails,
was at
but-
war. That's what would happen.
That's
Yeah.
Yes, I guess so. That
Exactly.
that is very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah.
I thought that one was probably one of the oddest. I had never heard that before. I'm like, what? You can't knock on the door?
Yeah, that's just whack.
I actually have that same rule in my house.
Do you really?
No.
you do.
Oh.
No, of course not.
Yeah, he would have a rule like that. Okay, go ahead. So, moving on.
Yeah.
Anything else on the French that would
okay.
besides French fries?
The other one had to do with their eating utensils, and I did find this one a little bit interesting because it
They
kind of
only
explained.
ate with gold.
Not quite.
Mm,
Not quite.
they only
But let me-
ate with
let me
the
read this
bones
to
of
you
the
word
carcasses
for
of
word,
royal
so you can-
animals.
No. Okay, so this has to do with forks, knives, and spoons. So let me just read this to you word for word so I don't mess it up for you.
Okay.
But though forks had established a foothold in the polite society of France by the later 1500s, Louis still ate with his hands. He had plenty to say about using one's knife, though. Etiquette required that aristocratic noblemen always bring their own dining implements to the banquets. Specifically, the dagger used for both cutting and spearing their food. So at that time, they weren't using forks or anything. They were using daggers to pick up their food. Some diners used the tip of their daggers or knives to pick at their teeth also, which is really disgusting. The king put an end to such spectacles by outlawing the pointed double-edged personal use daggers, thus creating a demand for not with a rounded and single cutting edge that we have today. So that kind of helped by him outlawing the double-edged dagger. That's kind of where we now have our, what we would use as a butter knife here in the U.S.
So a
where
sing-
Yeah,
so
so
a
after-
flat on
single-sided.
one and kind of rounded on the other.
So like a single-sided knife came from that period of time.
Yeah, he outlawed
Yes.
daggers because he got tired of people cutting their gums out and teeth out in front of him. So he's like, that's enough of that.
Yeah.
I've seen enough
Yep.
people
You know-
cut themselves.
I don't blame him though for think about all the things that a knife was used for back then, and yeah, that makes good sense that they would require you to bring your own knife, and you personally kind of for hygiene's sake, you wouldn't want to be
Exactly.
passing knives and stuff like that around.
Well, germs weren't discovered till
No
what,
way.
mid 1800s?
Yeah, but think about it. If I just went and stuck my knife in a bear, and then I pulled it out and I cleaned it off of sorts, you wouldn't want to use my knife. You'd want me
No
to use
way.
my knife.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So, and then you're saying that the one-sided knife came from that time period. Did they have one-sided knives before that? I don't.
Not that I found.
Yeah, I'm not finding that. I wouldn't find that either. I think that's interesting that from that period of time, that's where we get our what would be like a pocket knife, etc.
Well, crazy. Okay. Well, is that it for the French royals?
About the only other one that I did find interesting as well was you weren't allowed to open doors. Only the ushers could. So if you wanted to leave the room, you had to stand there and wait for an usher to open the door for you.
Oh wow. Okay. Like I okay. Well, I shouldn't go there, but I've seen some people in common society like that. They won't walk
Yeah.
through a door unless somebody opens it, and then they don't have the they have the audacity not to say thank you. So Very interesting.
Exactly.
Okay. Well,
Audacious.
yes, audacious. So going to the British royalty, because I know that is really where so many people's
Yeah, the most famous one for sure.
most famous
That's what
the
Jen mentioned,
interest.
right?
Yes.
What I know that there seems to be a story, something about like Raven soldiers or something. Is there something that you could kind of?
Oh yeah, the Raven soldiers.
Raven soldiers.
Yes,
This is
there
so
are
cool to
Raven
me.
Soldiers.
How did First of all, what are Raven soldiers, and then how did they come to be?
They're actual ravens. So, yeah, you know the bird.
Her Majesty's Ravens, or actual
Her
Ravens.
Majesty's
Okay,
Ravens,
so
yes,
these
yeah.
actual Ravens play what role today?
They are there as guardians over the Tower of London.
Okay, wow.
So they live in the Tower of London. They fly
Yes.
from. Do they ever fly out of the Tower of London, or just sit around in the Tower of London all the time?
Do you think they deliver notes? Like
carrier pigeons.
It says, if the Tower of London ravens are lost or they fly away, the crown will fall and Britain with it, is what a superstitious courier had said. And so that's why, so they actually keep them there somehow.
Okay, so they're trapped
by,
inside somewhere.
So it's
by
more
feeding
tradition
them or
now
what
that they're
have
still
you.
around. So
It's
how
some
did they come to
tradition.
be?
Back in the reign of Charles II in the 1600s, they've always had no fewer than 6 ravens there. So it started back with Charles II, and then they've just kept that tradition ever since.
And why? I mean, how did the tradition get started? Is it?
That I'm not sure. I didn't
Wasn't it
see
something
any.
that the?
Do you have notes on that, Don?
Yeah, it seems that the astronomer, there was a royal
So
astronomer.
when Charles II was ruling, there was an astronomer.
Yes,
Okay.
a royal astronomer that complained that the Tower of London's avian visitors were basically interfering with all his research.
Oh, I can't see the stars for birds. He probably said something like
and
that.
so the king ordered that the ravens be killed because these ravens kept coming, and trying to
So
interfere with his stuff.
These pesky birds would come.
Yes,
So, okay.
and so the king ordered, "Hey, kill all the ravens." And basically, at that point, he was told of that superstition that Jen just mentioned, and so that's why they kept them there.
Whoa, I have a different version of that story.
Okay, go ahead.
So the version I heard was this astronomer was there trying to work, and he couldn't work because there's all these pigeons and all these different kinds of birds bothering him, right? So they brought in these ravens to scare all the birds away.
See, that makes good sense.
Yeah,
That makes more
so they
sense
bring
to
in a
me.
couple ravens, right? And the ravens are like scarecrows to these other birds because they're enormous compared to these little whatever they had, robins or pigeons, whatever they had.
Yeah.
Anyway, so these ravens would scare all the other birds away so the astronomer could work freely without being interrupted. So then these ravens evolved into being actually
soldiers of
I don't know how you ever deputize a raven or whatever you call it. They became royalty, right? And there's in royalty in the sense that they are royal ravens, so they're royal soldiers. So they are taken care of like a soldier would be taken care of, and they can also be discharged and disciplined as a soldier would be. So if that raven
spank it?
if that raven starts acting up, and I don't know how a raven would act up, but apparently one of them was eating royal cake or something all the time, and on his third offense they had to kill him because they said, you've eaten too many royal cakes, you dumb raven.
Yeah.
So you are hereby
Yeah, they
discharged
can't
from
be
Her
dismissed
Majesty's
for misbehaving.
empire, and now you're dead.
They pluck all of its feathers first, or not?
I don't no idea. Probably feed it to the other ravens. I don't know. Anyway, so
Yeah,
that's the
one
version of
thing
the
that
story I
have
heard.
found-
So what do you
There
got,
was
Jen?
one raven named George, and he had his status revoked because he had a habit of eating television antennas.
Oh.
Ooh, how
So
dare
he
he.
was dismissed from.
There again, that
his,
makes me wonder,
royal duties.
like, where were these television antennas?
I don't know.
Apparently
so
on
they
the
must
roof.
fly around and then just always come back to the tower. Would
I
be
guess
my
that's-
assumption.
That's crazy.
All the other raven soldiers had eaten all the pigeons, and he's like, I'm hungry. What's this shiny thing?
Ooh, tastes like metal. Doesn't taste like chicken. Go ahead, Jen.
Okay, you guys still want to talk about ravens, or you want to?
No.
I think
Whatever.
we've talked about it from 3 different aspects.
We've plucked that one.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good moving on.
All right. So how about this? Let's see. The royal household always takes a hostage before the queen goes to the state opening of Parliament.
Oh,
if I'm reading that
wow.
correctly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so basically
so
when
very
Queen
interesting.
goes to speak, it would almost be like a president going to the joint session of Congress, kind of.
Yeah, so before she actually goes to the ceremony, the royal household takes a member of parliament as a hostage.
Oh, wow.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so basically
Yeah.
they're doing this so that nobody would take the life of the Queen, and then there would be nobody. It's basically, if we take one of yours, you can't take one of ours, kind of type deal.
Yeah, kind of.
Wow.
Yep, it said the ritual started as a way to ensure the sovereign's safety during the visit, especially when the monarch and parliament were in conflict.
So where does
Yeah,
that
the
hostage
hostage.
stay?
They stay at Buckingham Palace until the Queen returns safely, and then they can
And then
go.
they release them.
Yep.
Wow,
Man.
that is so
Yeah.
amazing. And that's
they
in
take
that
hostages.
we're talking modern day.
Yes. Yeah, it still
What?
happens today. Yeah.
So when the Queen goes to speak to Parliament, there's always a member. Well, that makes sense. I guess it's
It's
kind
got to
of,
be a member that holds some sort of weight or bearing, right?
yes, some kind of
'Cause
power.
Someone equal to the Queen
Yeah.
as far as the empire is concerned.
That is crazy. Okay. Now, what is there stuff to do with like gemstones or jewelry or something like that would be paramount to the royals that you could talk to us about?
Yeah, so doing some research, they absolutely love sapphires. So,
That's the blue one, right?
they're-
But they come in
Yes.
various colors. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, so Princess Diana actually had a sapphire engagement ring. And since medieval times, royal jewelry has sparkled with gemstones, and they believe them to hold mythical powers. So the sapphire in particular was known to deepen devotion and loyalty, as well as bringing financial prosperity and stability.
So if someone was
So-
broke and unloyal, they said, "You're not wearing your sapphire, doofus." That's what's wrong.
Exactly. Put that ring back on. No. I guess it was started with Queen Victoria, which she was very superstitious, and so she wore a sapphire on her wedding day, and it's just been passed down since then. So, which brings us to Kate Middleton's engagement ring. The stunning sapphire and diamond engagement ring Prince William proposed with has been valued at nearly $400,000. Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. What really stands out about the ring isn't the price tag, though, it's the history behind it. So the engagement ring actually belonged to Princess Diana. When she and Prince Charles were shopping from the royal jeweler in 1981, that particular ring caught Charles's eye. It's a 12-carat sapphire studded with 14 diamonds around it.
Wow. Okay.
So-
So that makes
When-
me. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, John.
Okay. When Princess Diana died in 1997, her sons were brought to Kensington Palace to select a keepsake. And here's where the twist comes in. William actually picked a Cartier watch, while Harry was the one to actually choose her engagement ring. And fast forwarding 13 years later, when William decided to propose to Kate, Harry didn't hesitate to actually let his big brother have that ring to offer it to Kate.
Wow.
Yeah, despite the
How
fact that
noble.
William. I know, yeah, so it's kind of sweet. So the ring was actually from Harry, gave it to his older brother, and was like, here, you go propose with it.
You know, he could have thought it was ugly because one thing I found in my research is they cannot refuse gifts.
No, they cannot.
So if whatever Harry didn't want it, he thought it was ugly.
Yeah, but he was picking it from his mom's. His mom
Sure.
passed, you know.
Choose it.
So
What I would want to know is, did Prince William give Harry the Cartier watch?
I am not sure.
You know, you would think that something
that's
like
a
that
great
would happen,
question.
like it would be a trade-off almost.
Yeah.
Or
I
did
guess though, back in the day, they did have an agreement that whoever got engaged first would have their mom's ring.
that is? I
he's 16 years old. I found my wife.
Yeah,
Give me the ring.
I still remember when Princess Di passed, and the feeling of shock that was just emanating throughout the world. It was crazy.
I don't remember at all because I paid no attention until a week ago.
Yeah. You don't pay attention to half the stuff.
Well, I
was
just
pretty little
didn't
when
care
she
about
passed away, so.
the royals or jewelry for that matter.
Yes.
But here I am.
So, Jen, I know with weddings and stuff like that, you've taken part, obviously, and you know, shot lots of photography for weddings. Is there anything unique or special about picking a wedding photographer for the royals that you would know of? Or
Yeah, so it's always like the royal dressmaker made a dress. Is there a royal photographer?
Yes, there
Oh
are. And actually,
my
I believe there's a
goodness.
couple of them. So there's one of them that I have found that I have followed. But there's got to be more because there's no way that one photographer can be present with all of the royals at one time.
Well, that one
And,
photographer can have employees, yes.
Well, yeah, but a lot of them don't, though.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, okay, moving on. I know that there's several. Like, I know they can't autograph. There's nothing they can autograph. Or, sorry, our research assistant is passing a note to us real fast. But I know that there's nothing. There's no. They can't autograph anything. Or, and what is the reason for some of these rules that all of these royals have to? There are so many rules that they have to put up with.
There are.
What is the reason for some of these rules? Like the no autographs one.
Well, the biggest one for the no autographs is so that potential forgers can't mimic the handwriting of the royals.
Okay, so that makes sense. So they don't want forging,
Correct.
counterfeiting of any sort. Okay, that makes good sense. Because I'd be like, well, I mean, there's celebrities out there all the time that give autographs. You would think that it wouldn't be as big of a deal for the royals, but maybe it is.
Do you know what I found they're not allowed to do?
What's that?
They cannot give their opinion on politics publicly.
Correct.
They're not allowed to speak their opinion on politics.
Yeah,
Yep.
that would make sense.
Yeah.
Because
That's a
Very
tradition I
bipartisan.
really appreciate from
Yeah.
these people.
And
Here are these
Yeah.
people with all this power and influence, right? And they're basically the celebrity version of, you know, what we have celebrities over here. They have the royal family over there. I'm sure
Yeah.
they have celebrities too. But anyway, it's just really cool that they're not allowed to talk about politics. I think that's really neat.
yeah, you know, you would think too, and I'm sure.
And the reason I think it's cool is because they're just people.
Yes.
Right? And you shouldn't be holding this person's, because of their opinion, I agree with them because of their status.
Yes.
Because they're a royal. So I want to be like a royal. So I'm going to agree with them politically.
You don't want
People aren't forced to do that. People are forced to seek out for themselves. Hey, why is this here? What's the reason for this legislation?
So basically, we would give more weight.
Yes.
As human beings, we would give more weight to.
In my
higher
opinion,
standing.
it
Yeah.
ought not to be.
I agree.
You should look it up yourself and understand why you do what you do and why you're
Yes.
involved or why you're not involved.
Yes, I agree with that. I know that something that was very interesting to me because of their standing, and it has, you know, the status of royalty has been that way for, you know, hundreds and hundreds, thousands even of years. You would think that there would be that they would, and I'm sure they do in some ways, have kind of this uppity feeling to them, but yet at the same time, you always see them doing charity work and seeming to help out those that are less fortunate than they are. But one thing that I did find, and that is that Prince Charles, he has like 3 personal valets, and they all maintain his wardrobe, including ironing his shoelaces.
Yes.
They iron his shoelaces
I saw
every
that
day.
as well.
Can you
Wow.
imagine that?
Yeah.
Like, hey, bring me your Nike. I mean, I know the royalty probably never wears Nikes, but hey, bring me your Nikes. Your shoelaces need ironed.
Man.
I know.
Yeah, they iron
never
the
thought you'd
shoelaces
have
of
to iron
every
shoelaces.
pair of shoes that he owns. Yeah,
Yes.
I wouldn't think of that either, but that's pretty crazy. All right, Jen, sorry, moving on. Give us another tidbit.
All right, so let's start talking about their etiquette rules.
Okay.
The number one, especially with royal women in the family, they cannot sit with their legs crossed at the knee. Which, for me being a woman, like, I cross my knees all the time. So to me, I'm just like, how could they not sit down and be tempted to cross their knees? But they
Yeah.
can't. So
So they have to cross them at like the ankle. Is that a,
They can cross them at the ankle. That is fine. And they've actually started this new technique, and I think it was just a way for them to remember, like, mind over matter, like, don't cross your knee. And that is called the Duchess slant. So that they will just kind of put their ankles together and move them off to this side, kind of sit crooked a little bit, and maybe even cross at the ankle a little bit as well. But that one I'm just like, oh man, I don't know how they can do that, because I constantly am crossing my knees without even thinking about it.
Yeah, I
guess you couldn't be royalty, Jen.
Nope, I couldn't.
So what's next on the etiquette list? Crossing of the knee.
Next one on my list was that the royals must enter the room in order of precedence.
Okay.
So basically, in order of who's in line next to the throne. So it, of course, would be Queen Elizabeth first, followed by the Duke of Edinburgh, which is Prince Philip's. The Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall would come in next, which is Prince Charles and Camilla. And then the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, which would be Prince William and Catherine, and then so on and so forth. So they all have to file in order to the line of the throne.
Oh, I could add something to that. So did you know that the new king, the new Dutch king, is 889th in line to the British throne?
What?
Really?
Yeah. So I guess he would have a long time to wait before he could come into the room.
Well, I
would.
do. The way the crown succession.
He lived that long.
Yeah. So, anyways, okay, that was a detour. But anyways, continue on.
Next one on my list was about the curtsies. A lot of times you think, oh, when somebody curtsies, they actually like
that
go
little
all
bow
the way to
thing.
the floor. Yeah, like you totally bow almost to the floor. Which the queen
is that what that means? I had no idea. I thought.
So like a curtsy is like when you.
I thought
when
it was like
cross your legs,
cross your leg, and you take a little dip.
Yeah, like.
And you bow your head. Well, a lot of times you would think it's a deep curtsy, but actually the queen only requires just a subtle one. So you simply put one leg behind the other, bend your knees, and bow your head slightly.
So every woman that meets the queen has to do a royal curtsy?
Correct.
Every time they see him.
It's a sign of respect.
Oh,
there's
boy.
so many royal words. The royal dressmaker, the royal photographer,
Man,
the royal curtsy.
Yes, I would forget.
I'm
half these
sorry,
things.
you did not do the royal handshake. You must be outcast. Be gone.
Wow, okay. So I know that they're a very modest group as far as their dress and all of that.
They are.
And that's
not true, because they wear sapphires and all that jewelry. That's not modest. That's ostentatious.
well, okay.
That's adornment. The opposite of modest.
Okay.
But you mean covering skin? I get it.
And they dress in a very conservative, professional way. Yes.
Yes.
Minus the jewelry. I agree.
Got it. So okay, go ahead.
But they are very particular about certain things, and as far as their jewelry, such as the tiara. It can only be worn at a 45-degree angle when viewed from the side. So that tiara has to be positioned just right.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And I'm sure they have royal hairdressers that get that tiara just right.
Oh, yes, they do. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, our fact checker just verified there is indeed a royal handshake. Thank you for that.
There you go. Thank you.
Really?
Yep.
Nice.
I certainly don't have it.
There's a way to wave, apparently, too.
Probably.
You must wave the princess wave.
Yeah. So, go ahead, Jen.
So probably one of the most fascinating things in my research was
building
about
up.
the queen's purse.
Oh, wait. Can I throw something else in?
Before we get to the most fascinating thing, how dare you?
Oh, forgive me. I just messed up royally.
I'm excited to get to the purse.
Okay, what do you got, Don?
And that is the one thing that I found in my research was they are so much like every other family I know.
What do you mean?
They can't play Monopoly together.
No, they can't.
I don't know one family that can play Monopoly together and survive. It's like every time everybody plays. And so I read that Prince Andrew was gifted the game, but responded, "We're not allowed to play Monopoly at home. It gets too vicious." And I was like, oh, that sounds like my house.
You know, I was joking about the wave.
mine
Fact
too.
checker just verified there's a royal wave, too.
There's a royal wave?
Yep, there's a proper way to wave.
Is there a royal haircut?
That's apparently instantly recognizable.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Queen's purse. Moving on.
All
I
right.
digress.
Yes, moving on to the queen's purse.
I'm gonna write this down. Don digresses here.
So Did you guys know that the queen actually uses her purse to send secret messages to her staff?
Oh, like when she's in public? Or when
Yes.
she's... Oh, okay. So you're not talking about when she's in private and she's like, doesn't want to talk to anybody. Okay.
Okay, what's
this
the
is
message?
When she's out in public. So there's a couple different ones.
Wait a second.
Okay, so
Does she know you're telling this on the podcast? Because we're about to tell everybody.
We're letting go of the secret. All right.
I found this
The
online,
millions of
so
people are fixing to
it's
know.
all over anyways.
Okay. All right.
Just Google it. It's there.
Okay, I believe you. I just
Yes.
don't want you to get assassinated.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what's the secret message?
Okay, so
communicated
these
by a purse?
signals with her purse help her to get out of conversations. So, number one, if the queen moves her purse from its normal spot that's on her left arm and she moves it to her right arm while she's talking with somebody, her staff knows that she kind of wants things to wrap it up.
So she always has her purse on her left arm. Always.
Yes, she always carries her handbag or purse on her left. If she moves it to her right, that means, okay, she kind of is wanting to go.
So that means come
she's
rescue me.
done.
I
Yes,
just send a
come
text
rescue
message. I
me.
say, hey, call me
Yeah.
right now. And I just, excuse me, my phone's ringing.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So what's the next
So,
signal?
The next signal, if that doesn't work, like if she's really getting desperate, she's just like, I am done with this conversation. If she puts her purse on the floor, that means she needs to be saved from an uncomfortable encounter ASAP. Like, get her out of the situation. She's done.
Wow.
Has this ever happened?
Yes.
Because if it had happened, I want to know who she was talking to
Exactly.
when that happened.
You know, me too. So maybe we'll have to do a little bit more research on that one.
Oh,
figure out
okay.
if she's actually done that. Because I didn't find anything like that. The third one is if she is at dinner and she places it on the table, that means she wants to end the event within the next 5 minutes. So that's kind of their cue. If she sets her purse up on the table, staff knows in 5 minutes she better be out of there.
I think one of the things that would interest me is how long have these secret signals been in existence?
Yeah.
And you know, how often are they used? That is, to me,
Right.
that's amazing.
Well, she became queen at 25, so
She's been queen for 75 years, 77 years,
Man.
somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it is very neat that you. I mean, I know I have signals. There's
I
things
wonder
that
if they announced these messages or if people just decoded them.
we just
I've
announced
noticed.
just
I've
now.
noticed every time the queen moves her purse to her right hand, that is within 5 minutes that she's escorted out.
Yeah, that could be.
Could be. Could
you
be.
have-
I would assume that people have just eventually over time deduced these things.
That
Because I
or
can't imagine her publicly saying this. Yeah, if you see me move this, I'm done talking to you.
or
Yeah,
or
that-
staff
Like-
members that leave and give out the secret.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that I'm sure that happens as well.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Okay. Interesting. Now, is it true that they always travel, no matter where they're going, if they're going to Tahiti, or it doesn't matter if they're going to the beach, the mountains, or whatever, do they always travel with black
their-
clothes?
Oh,
Yes, they do.
Okay. And why
Yeah,
is that?
Okay, so back in 1952, when King George died, Princess Elizabeth and Philip were on vacation in Africa, and they had to travel back home in regular clothes because they didn't bring any black clothing with them.
how dare they?
So yeah, so typically when a royal dies, the other royal family will immediately put black on.
Okay.
So that is the reason they have to travel with mourning clothes, is in case a family member dies while they're away, they can travel back with black clothing on.
What a terrible reminder to pack with you every time. It's like,
Jonathan,
oh, just in
did you
case someone
pack your
dies.
did you pack your black suit?
It's like, wow, you planning on killing me? What's going on?
I'm gonna kill over here.
Yeah.
So now, we talked on our other podcast about license and getting, going through DMV and all that. They don't have to. Would the royals have to have licenses or?
As far as I know, I believe that other family members might have driver's licenses, but the queen herself does not need a license.
Okay.
So she's the only one that I have
She can
found,
do no wrong. So
Yeah.
I guess you can't give her a ticket, huh? Oh, it said the
Exactly.
queen was going over 90 miles an hour. We're going to have to give her a ticket.
yeah, good luck with that,
Yeah.
buddy.
idea. Yeah.
It's like, Police officer mysteriously disappears after pulling the queen over. How odd.
Yeah. But she also doesn't need an ID either. She doesn't need any form of identification.
I guess she's probably one of the most easily recognizable people in all the world. So I guess it's hard to.
So she doesn't need it.
I wonder why they do that. Is that for also for identity theft or anything like that? They don't want that to happen, or
that's a good thought. I hadn't thought of that. Didn't come up in my research, but that could be a good reason on why.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, what else do we got that's fascinating?
Kind of be like the when Mikhail Gorbachev was in power and his limousine was at his house, and one day he woke up late, and he's like, "Oh, I got to get to where I'm going fast." And so he walked out and he told his driver, he's like, "Listen, I give an edict that anybody that's speeding automatically has to get a ticket. So that way we don't get in trouble. Why don't you sit in the back and let me drive?" And so the chauffeur was sitting in the back, and Mikhail Gorbachev is driving, and he gets pulled over by this motorcycle officer. The motorcycle officer walks up, sees Mr. Gorbachev in the driver's seat, and he's like, excuse me, sir, you can go on. So that motorcycle officer went back to the other his motorcycle partner, and he said, the second partner said, "Hey, how come you didn't give a ticket to that car? It was going way too fast." And he said, the reason why, he said, "I don't know who the guy was in the back, but Mikhail Gorbachev was driving him. I knew if he was that important, there was no way I was giving him a ticket." So I guess if the queen gets pulled over, nobody's giving her a ticket anybody. So who needs the license?
Exactly.
Okay, sorry. Moving on.
What else do you got?
Another tidbit was about the queen's schedule. So if you're dining or staying at the queen's home, if you ever get the privilege of staying there with her,
like that's going to happen.
Have to.
I have a friend that had tea with her, but anyways, go ahead.
Let me take notes because just in case I go there next year. Here we go. What do I need to do?
Okay, so you will have to eat when the queen eats, and you will have to sleep when the queen sleeps.
Ooh,
so
that could be a problem.
Yeah,
I'm a night owl.
Exactly. So you can't just kind of do your own thing and be like, "Oh, I'm tired, I'm going to bed." No, you have to wait until the queen goes to bed before you can.
Okay. So I couldn't do like a load of laundry or anything like that?
No.
Because I do that like
they don't have washing machines.
Wait, come back at me again.
No more. They don't have washing machines.
There's no washing machines.
At least from what I have found, Prince Charles and Duchess Camilla's clothes are not allowed to be cleaned in washing machines. Everything has to be hand washed.
So they just have some
So as far
peasants.
as I know, there's no washing machines there.
Oh, wow. So I guess I couldn't do my laundry while everybody was asleep, which I actually enjoy doing a lot of times if I'm staying at somebody's house. And
so you couldn't do it there if you were visiting the queen.
Okay, all right.
And it even goes so much that you can't even start. So let's say you guys, you're at the royal banquet or whatever. You cannot start eating your meal until the queen starts. So even if they place the plate in front of you, if the queen hasn't picked up her fork to scoop up that first bite, you cannot start that eating. Oh. You have to wait till she starts.
Sounds too stiff.
And don't they have like 4 forks or something too? Okay.
If she is done eating, everybody else has to stop.
No matter if you're full or not.
Correct.
So that sounds to me like we're gonna have a food race. And me and John would be looking at each other. Okay, on your mark, get set, go. Just stuff it down our mouth.
I don't think John would have any problem wolfing it down before she finishes. But
I have a reputation for eating fast. I've tried to slow down.
Yes. Well, I pop it in my mouth. I pop it in my mouth and chew 3 times and swallow, whether it's chewed up or not.
Yeah.
So
mashed potatoes, whatever.
Yeah. There you go. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jen.
Let's see.
Now,
I think that
isn't there something. Wait,
because that's it. I got some stuff to say.
There's something about food that I'm curious about.
Okay,
is my understanding that all the potatoes are all measured? Is this?
Yes.
Okay, so in Buckingham Palace, all the potatoes are measured before they're served. Correct? Am I correct, Jen?
Correct.
Why to count calories?
No, it's to make sure that they're similar size when they go to be, so they don't throw off the appearance of the dinner plate. So everybody, they want it as they pass it along that everybody's looks the same.
Okay.
Yeah. That way
Yeah.
you're not
So they want all
jealous
to be
of
treated
somebody
equal?
else's
Is that
next
is that
to you.
why?
Oh, you got a
Equality?
bigger potato than I did.
Yeah.
Okay, I
No,
can
they're
see
all
that.
measured
So me and you
equally,
couldn't
yes.
get in fights over how many,
No.
oh, you had
'Cause
more potatoes than I did.
Theoretically, both of your
I would
plates
definitely-
would have the same amount of food on it.
After hearing all these rules, I would just eat before I went. I would just stop at Taco Bell, eat on the way there.
Is Taco Bell called Taco Bell in Great Britain?
I would stop whatever they have.
I know there's different names for different places in like Australia. Sorry, we're way off topic, but in Australia, McDonald's is McDonald's, I believe, but KFC is not KFC. It's something else. But
really?
but it looks just like KFC. Yeah. Anyways,
Interesting.
Maybe
sorry.
Australia fried chicken.
Yeah, research assistant, could you please look up Australian fast food? Anyways, go ahead. Sorry, Jen.
I just have one more.
Okay.
Little fun fact that I found in my research, and that is when it comes down to christening a new royal. So when
That's
a
the
royal
word I was
heirs-
looking for earlier. Christening.
Yeah,
Anyway, go ahead.
Christening. The baby's first official public appearance, and every royal baby, which there's been 62 in total, all of them have worn the same gown.
It's not threadbare?
Well, and this is from Queen Victoria's era. So
Wow.
62 have worn it until Prince George.
Oh,
So,
What did he do different?
Well, what they did, and it was for preservation purposes, an exact replica was made to replace the original gown for all future christenings. So they went through 62 royals with all wearing the same gown. They replicated it, and now they're going to use that new replicated gown for any of the
For the next
royals
62.
moving forward. Yeah, exactly.
wow.
So I guess the gown was probably getting a little worn, so they decided to retire it.
Yeah,
But
I can
thought
imagine
that was
62
crazy.
babies wore it.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty nuts.
Well, awesome. Well, that was really interesting, actually. It was more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
See,
So
John, I told you.
wait. Okay, going back to this fast food in Australia.
Okay, what do you got?
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we
like Burger King is not called Burger King there. It's called Hungry Jack's.
Hungry Jack.
Hungry Jack's, yeah. And then they have, there's lots of different places, but it's all like their logos are the same, but it's very similar. There's one, it looks almost just like Chick-fil-A, but it's not Chick-fil-A. I wonder. Interesting. Okay, sorry. Moving on. So, okay, it's very interesting to me. One thing that I find intriguing is the succession line.
Oh, yeah, the crown succession.
The crown succession of the royals. So, a couple of things. First of all, for years, it always went to the firstborn son. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So even if even if the king had two daughters and then he had a son who was the baby boy would have been king over the two girls because there was a boy present. The only time that there was a queen is when there was no boys born under the king or queen, and that's it. You had to have all daughters.
So, what would happen if you had twins?
Whichever was the first one out the door, that would be the firstborn.
That would be
literally,
the firstborn.
yeah.
So that I guess that would, and then it would stay.
These rules were by Henry VIII. He's the one that stated these rules that said if there's a boy anywhere among the siblings, he is the king.
So King Henry VIII, he's the one that
Yes.
killed all his wives or something like that.
He's one of the crazy ones. There's a
Okay.
lot of crazy ones. He's one of them.
Interesting. So you have basically it has to be a boy. So let's say that I had two boys. The firstborn would be king after me. He would be like the in line.
Right, yes.
And then if something happened to him before he had children,
Before your firstborn had a child, then it would go to his brother.
then it would go to his brother.
Yes.
Okay. And then it would never go back at that point once it had, changed to the second son. So if
hang on. It can go back. Here's the crazy thing. If that second son dies and the king dies, you have to back up the crown up the family tree. So you go, okay, let's say your son died, who was both your sons died. So the firstborn was king, but he died. The secondborn would have been king, but he died, and now you die. So the crown goes up to you, and then it goes above your head to your father, and then it drops down to his secondborn son, or thirdborn son, or fifthborn or his daughter. And if all those people are dead, it goes up again. And this will always work because their family tree, the way genetics work, right? If we keep backing this up and people keep dying, by this math, almost everybody in Europe is related to the royal family by backing up a generation like this. So you will never run out of a king.
Well, it's just like the Dutch royals, like I mentioned earlier, being 889th in line to the throne. It's because if you kept backing it up, that's how they would find.
No, that's direct succession. That's not backing it up.
Okay.
So that's a little.
Yeah. You're right. I'm sorry.
Backing it up. You only have to back it up when everybody dies.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay. So that now didn't that rule change?
That rule didn't change until 2014.
Oh wow! So then they got equal rights.
Yes, and then that's when it was declared that boys, girls doesn't matter. Whichever the firstborn is, that is the next in line for
succession.
The crown.
Okay. Very interesting. Now, let's talk a little bit about cost and what...
Yeah, because some people argue that it's kind of pointless to have a royal family because some people argue that they don't have any real political power because they always agree with what Parliament says they want to do. So Parliament says, hey, we have this new law, and the royals just say, oh, yes, of course. And the Queen always agrees.
Yeah, no, that makes good sense.
So they're criticized for costing tax money, and they don't really have any power. That's one of the alleged criticisms. But the counter argument is really good because the royals actually own a lot of land.
Yes.
And so there was this king way back in the day who owed a lot of money. So he decided to go to Parliament and say, hey, you guys give me a fixed amount of income. I'll give you all the rents of my lands, everybody on my lands that I own.
Thousands and
all
thousands
the rent
of
money.
acres. Okay.
You can collect it for the rest of my life.
Wow.
And so Parliament said, oh, yeah, that's going to work out for us for sure because we can collect all this rent long after you're dead. So the king dies. Well, he leaves his property. He doesn't give up ownership. He gives up ownership to the next king and then the next king. And so the crown still owns the land.
Okay.
They just rent it back to Parliament, or Parliament collects the rent, rather, and then Parliament pays the royal family a fixed rate. So this is how they make their money.
So basically they get a salary out of it. So the royalty gets a salary, but then all of their lands they rent and give all of the rent money basically
So
goes
the royal
to
family is paid from Parliament £40 million a year, which sounds like a lot. But the Parliament makes 200 or 20 million. They make
200 million.
No, I'm sorry, 200 million pounds.
Pounds is what they make off of for the rent.
So it's profit. Parliament profits from the royal family, from their land directly, 160 million pounds a year.
So that's just
profit.
Wow. Okay.
But that's completely separate from the real money maker, which is tourism, because a lot of people from America and lots of other places travel there to see the royal family.
The royal
family. Because it's a true living monarchy that's still around, right?
Yes.
So, or true is, we just talked about this, whether they have real power or not, who knows, right?
Yeah, but they want to see.
People want to see the royal family. They want to see
their castles.
Yes.
The
reason they're the most, they're super popular, right? We talk about their photographers, their jewelry. There's details about everything, where the queen wears her purse and all that. People are interested in this royal family, so it draws in a lot of tourism money. And I think it's 7,000 million? It's some
700,000 million.
700,000 million pounds in tourism revenue.
Wow. Okay, so here's an interesting fact. And
that's
that
a lot of money.
Let me give you a question of trivia.
What do you got?
Jen, what do you think? Who do you think is the most expensive royal family? Would it be the Dutch, the Spanish, the French, or the British?
Wait, what do you mean by most expensive? Because we just found out they only receive 40 million.
Okay, so I'm talking about the actual cost of upkeep, basically.
Of upkeep.
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay. Read them off again for me.
So it would be the Dutch, the Spanish, the French, or the British.
Or the British. I want to say the French.
Okay.
What is
Good
it?
Guess. It is the Dutch. The smallest. Yeah, they are the smallest by population, they're the smallest by land, they're the smallest of all, and yet they are the most expensive upkeep.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, very interesting.
Everything's everything's gold.
It's so they cost, the Dutch royal family costs more than the British.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Well, yeah, some of the things I was reading were saying that the queen is very frugal, and I thought that is so odd. But I think what they mean is she's frugal
For what she has.
Yeah, for what she has and the way
Comparatively.
she could act, she is very
Yeah.
frugal to according to previous people, because there's golden carriages and all these very fancy things which she doesn't apparently take part in.
Yeah,
Right.
and for what I see, when you do see the monarchy, you do see class.
So since we're done with all the facts and stuff, what's your taking a look back at this, Don? What do you think? What do you think about the traditions? Do you think some of them are just goofy, should be done away with, or do you respect some of them?
No, I respect them. I think they all play a role. You don't take down a fence until you know why it was put up.
That's good. I like
And
that.
I think that they have their traditions. It's what's made them who they are, and why the monarchy has been able to exist as long as it has, is because they have some of these rules and traditions that some of us commoners would look at and say, oh, that's crazy. But because they continue to enforce some of this stuff, it continues the monarchy. So I respect it. Hey, would I like to go see it? Yes, I would love to. Would I like to live that way? No, I would not.
What about you personally? Do you adhere to family traditions that you disagree with?
Yes. Yeah, there's probably some family
Any that you can
traditions.
talk about that come to mind, or
No,
nothing that comes to mind?
Nothing that comes to mind at
Okay.
this point, but I'm sure that there's things that
Out of
my
respect, you would do them.
I would do
Yeah.
them even if it wasn't my thing. But I'll do that because that's a family tradition.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Yeah, I would. If something's going to not harm me or cause me extreme work,
Yes.
yeah, might as
or
well.
or go against my belief system. Yeah,
Yes,
I'm more than willing to go along, because it is part of the tradition of who you are and where you came from. And I strongly support that. I think that's good.
Yeah. Well said.
Well, awesome. Well, that's all I had. Jen, do you have any final remarks? And
I sure don't, other than I would love to go have tea with the Queen sometime if I ever could.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
yeah, that'd
well,
be nice.
thank you.
Thank you for being our guest, Jen. We really appreciate you calling in. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for all the facts you brought us.
Yes,
Yeah, no
we
problem.
do. We
Thanks for
appreciate your
having me.
time, and once again to all of our listeners, we want to say a great big thank you to always tuning in. Please don't forget to send us an email if you
Yes.
have any show suggestions, topics. That is to the GABL, THEGABL, the GABL podcast at gmail.com. We really appreciate all the feedback that we're getting.
Yeah, whatever feedback you got for our show, suggestions, we would love to hear it. Today's show was a suggestion from one of you guys, so we appreciate that. And if you want to receive a shout out, feel free to mention that in the email. If we use your idea, we'll gladly give you a shout out if that's what you want. And yeah, we look forward to hearing from you. Don't forget to rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. And whatever you're listening to us on, don't forget to subscribe so you get to hear our next episode. We try to make these every week, and pretty soon we'll be doing them more often than every week. As always, we appreciate you joining us, and we look